It's intensely personal. It's getting more personal. They're going to discover more information that's going to make them angry. They're out to salvage their reputation. So there's not going to be an easy way to walk away from this and say, okay, let's just call it a day.
Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds have just been exposed in a major way after their legal spectacle completely collapsed, with allegations of fake witnesses, attempted bribery, and questionable legal maneuvers coming to light, leaving nothing concealed anymore.
Juries don't like liars. Trials are about credibility.
Judge Lyman saw straight through their Hollywood-style manipulation, and now their entire case is falling apart faster than Blake's credibility.
Wants different rules for her than she wants for Baldoni and his team, which I don't think the judge will agree.
Blake Lively truly believed she could stroll into court, throw around some polished legal buzzwords, squeeze out a few staged tears, and walk away a winner. But that plan backfired so badly, she might as well retire and open a bakery, because her career is completely burned, and Judge Lyman, who showed remarkable patience in tolerating the nonsense, ultimately had enough and labeled her lawsuit for exactly what it was: a publicity circus.
Testimony is super important in this case, and if you can show the jury that she's lied, juries don't like lies.
This was not a genuine case or a serious legal fight, just a blatant media stunt meant to sway public opinion, and ironically, the only person being manipulated is Blake herself, because the entire situation has exploded in her face like an overinflated balloon.
I said last time is, of the 92-8 split, which is 92% of cases settled and 8 don't, this does meet criteria of being within that 8% because it's intensely personal.
But wait, it gets even better. Just when you thought this case could not get any more ridiculous, a leaked internal audio recording surfaced, and it is exactly the kind of smoking gun attorneys dream of. Not some random scrap of evidence, but Hollywood's dirty little secret being played loud and clear for the entire world to hear.
So I think there could be some argument about whether it was leaked and shouldn't have been leaked, and should they have the information or what it may be. But no matter what happens, this is a damning quote.
Emmanuel, one of the most influential agents in the industry, essentially admitted that Justin Baldoni was blacklisted from projects not because he had done anything wrong, but simply because of his associations with the wrong people, and by wrong people we mean Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds, the very same power couple who believed they could control Hollywood like it was their own personal playground.
Dispute these words that were said by Lively's side had a clear, immediate negative impact on Baldoni's.
Now let's break this down. WME, Baldoni's former agency, completely severed ties with him after Lively made her allegations public, not because there was any real evidence against him, but because Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds had the right connections to pull strings behind the scenes.
What we're seeing now with this quote is WME absolutely got rid of him because of these things that were said. And so now he's got a clear line to get damage support.
And now, thanks to this leaked audio, it is no longer speculation but established fact, as Judge Lyman now has solid evidence that Blake's side was actively manipulating the industry to ruin Baldoni's career, which means her entire case is built on falsehoods. The judge recognizes it, the attorneys recognize it, and at this point even her own PR team likely recognizes it as well, and is probably searching for the quickest way out.
This is inching towards that percentage of lawsuits that don't settle. We could very well see a trial in this case.
And just when you thought it could not get any shadier, the Freakonomics podcast episode that featured the Emmanuel audio mysteriously vanished. And I don't know about you, but when the one episode capable of exposing Hollywood corruption suddenly disappears without a trace, it raises serious questions about just how much power these people truly have.
Somebody who has a significant amount of power in the industry and has the ability to tell stars not to go on your podcast in the future, and has general ability to make life uncomfortable for you and ask for a favor, you're more inclined to do it, right?
If they can make an entire podcast episode vanish, what else might they have been hiding? But here's the thing, this time it didn't work. The audio is out, the damage is done, and Baldoni now seems to have a clear legal path to pursue damages, because this is no longer just a PR disaster for Lively. It is shaping up to be a potential defamation battle that could come back to seriously haunt her.
Yes, does he have the power to do it? Yes. And I think a lot of people who are even a lot less powerful than Ari Emanuel would have the power to do that, so that doesn't surprise me.
But let's talk about the real skill Blake Lively has displayed throughout this ordeal. her Oscar-worthy performance in deceiving and manipulating the legal system. Honestly, if the Academy gave awards for Best Actress in a staged lawsuit, she would sweep every category, as this woman has rewritten her own narrative more times than a high school student cramming a last-minute essay.
You know, just from a PR standpoint, if they both struck an agreement and walked away, that would be the smartest. Because it's not going to get any, it was never going to get any better from Lively after when she filed that California Civil Rights Division pre-complaint.
Her initial complaint was already absurd, but then she suddenly recalled new details and required 180 pages to lay them out. To put that in perspective, most lawsuits of this nature are only about 20 to 25 pages long, yet Blake decided to turn hers into a Lord of the Rings length tome, clearly believing that if she stuffed enough nonsense into it, no one would bother examining it closely.
So I was able to read the amended complaint, which, by the way, it's very abnormal. It's almost 180 pages, 400 and some odd paragraphs. Complaints are not normally that long, but this one has to be for public.
But people did read it, and guess what? It stands as one of the most overtly PR-driven lawsuits in Hollywood history. Legal experts quickly shredded it, noting that most of it isn't even about legitimate legal claims. It's simply media manipulation masquerading as a legal document. And if you need 180 pages to persuade people that something occurred, the odds are high that nothing actually did.
Kind of makes them look like they're trying to take that video now that it's out and kind of spin it in a different direction.
And oh, let's not forget her most embarrassing blunder yet. She repeatedly claimed to have a video of a shocking, disturbing incident that supposedly proved Baldoni's guilt, hyping it as the smoking gun that would ruin his career. Then the full video leaked, and guess what? It showed her smiling, taking part, and looking completely at ease, leaving viewers everywhere stunned once the entire footage was finally seen.
That's why you think, like you mentioned before, that you think this video is the most damning evidence that Baldoni has so far.
I think so. And it's better than.
Let me repeat that for those not paying attention. The key piece of evidence she based her entire case on turned out to be the exact opposite of what she claimed. She outright lied, and when she was caught, she didn't admit it. She simply altered her story once again.
It's insurmountable. It seems like this case cannot be.
Suddenly, her new excuse was that Baldoni wasn't in character, and that she was being forced to act as if she liked him. Hello. She's an actress. That's literally her job.
Said, well, yes, all of that happened, but when Baldoni was in that scene dancing, he wasn't in character, and she was being forced to act as though she loved him, which is, in my mind, just...
What's next? Leonardo DiCaprio suing because he had to pretend to be in love with someone in Titanic. The sheer absurdity of this argument is staggering. She went from, "This scene traumatized me," to, "Oh, wait, I was just forced to act." Well, Blake, you weren't forced to act well, that's for sure.
Blake Lively had changed some stuff up in her amended complaint. Now she's describing that dancing scene very differently than she did in her first complaint.
But here's where it gets truly fascinating. Legal analysts have pointed out that if even one lie is found in her testimony, the jury can reject her entire statement. And guess what? She has been caught lying repeatedly, which means when this finally goes to trial, her credibility will be dead on arrival. She thought she could play the victim, rewrite history, and control public opinion, but instead, she completely ruined her own case.
Testimony won't even count. And that is that's a harsh reality, because if the jury chooses not to listen to anything she has to say, she's the best witness in this case.
And rather than seeing that her lawsuit is collapsing, what does she do? She digs in deeper. Every time she gets caught, she invents another absurd excuse, making her whole case look even weaker. It's like watching someone dig a hole, realize they are trapped, and instead of stopping, they just keep digging faster.
It's like one of those cases that has enough of the bad feelings on both sides that it could potentially show up in the trial.
At this stage, even Hollywood, the place that lets stars get away with practically everything, is viewing this lawsuit and thinking, yeah, this is humiliating. Blake Lively could have exited quietly, but no, she had to push it this far, and now she is trapped with nowhere to escape.
Shifted the narrative, and she could have walked away and probably had a PR victory just off that document. Now, I think with the lawsuit going and both sides firing guns at each other, I think it's not going to get any better for either of them.
And let's be honest, Ryan Reynolds has to be absolutely stunned seeing this mess play out. The guy built a whole career as Hollywood's charming, funny guy, and now he's tied to one of the most embarrassing legal blunders in recent memory. They assumed their status, connections, and clout could shape the story and hide the truth. But clearly that plan backfired spectacularly.
Jurors are very bright, especially collectively. When they're all together, they all come from varied backgrounds. They're the smartest people in the room collectively, and they generally get the right results.
But this time they failed, and everyone sees straight through it. Blake Lively really believed she could smooth her way out of this mess by tossing some money around, a typical celebrity tactic. When life goes wrong, just write checks and hope the problem vanishes. But judges don't play that game, and Lively learned that the hard way. Her desperation hit overdrive when her team quietly pushed for an attorney's eyes-only AEO protection order.
It's intensely personal. It's getting more personal. They're going to discover more information that's going to make them.
Now, for those who don't speak legal jargon, this basically means she wanted to keep key evidence hidden from everyone except the lawyers. No one else, not even Justin Baldoni or the judge, could see these documents. Why would anyone do that? There's only one logical reason. She's hiding something so damaging, so career-ending, that she's willing to twist the law itself to keep it buried.
Testimony is super important in this case, and if you can show the jury that she's lied, juries don't like liars. Trials are about...
And let's talk about how disturbingly specific this alleged bribery situation sounds, because a supposed insider dropped a bombshell claiming there were 100 million reasons Lively's team was pushing so hard to bury this evidence. Now, call me crazy, but that sounds a lot like a bribe, not just any bribe, but a $100 million bribe. Imagine being so desperate to erase the truth that you are allegedly willing to throw 9 figures at. The problem: this is not your typical Hollywood cover-up. This is crossing straight into judicial corruption territory, and guess what? Judge Lyman was not having any of it at all.
Are about the truth, and juries want the truth, and if you lie to them, they will.
This man has been observing Blake Lively's antics for months, and he shut it down immediately. He basically told her team, "Nice try, but the law doesn't work that way." The best part is he reminded them that courts exist to serve the public, not entitled celebrities who think they can buy justice. You know it's serious when a judge has to explain that the legal system isn't for sale.
If she lied in their minds about what occurred during that dancing scene, because she wasn't aware that there was audio that would maybe explain and give some context to what was happening there. So of course she changes her in her amended complaint, she changes the view of it a little.
But of course Blake Lively wasn't finished humiliating herself, since the "let's just bribe our way out" plan failed. Her team tried another classic Hollywood move, playing the celebrity victim card. They actually argued that because she's famous, releasing certain evidence could cause irreparable harm to her career, her marriage, her ego, because the only irreparable harm happening here is the damage she's doing to her own credibility.
I hope that these HR complaints are genuine and credible. There's some credibility to them, because if we do learn that these were brought about by Blake Lively and her team, it's just going to compound already all the other bad facts that they're dealing with.
And just when you think it couldn't get worse, lawyer Brian Fredman stepped in and completely tore apart Lively's argument in one simple line. He shut it down with, "Just because they're celebrities doesn't mean they get different laws." Translation: sit down, Blake. You don't get VIP treatment. In court, you can almost hear her legal team collectively sigh in defeat. They've tried everything: fake evidence, bribery, playing the victim, and every single attempt has failed spectacularly.
You got on Baldoni's side, you have one of the most aggressive entertainment lawyers in Hollywood. On the other side, you have very good lawyers in New York. And they are poised for battle. I don't think they're thinking right now at all about.
And speaking of spectacular failures, let's talk about the fake witnesses. Blake Lively and her PR team really outdid themselves with this stunt. After realizing their legal arguments were dead on arrival, they went for Plan Z: invent some anonymous accusers and hope people believe them.
I think they probably won't listen to any experts or advisors or lawyers at this point. It doesn't sound like this because they make so many mistakes and bad decisions.
Yes, they even brought out 2 anonymous actresses who supposedly claimed to have similar experiences with Baldoni, but here's the catch: they were never named anywhere in the lawsuit, not even by initials, with zero official documentation at all, just a vague "trust us, they exist" claim. And that raises an obvious question: if these witnesses were actually credible and important, why are they completely invisible? Because everyone knows that if these so-called witnesses were real, they would be testifying. in court not quietly floated through Hollywood gossip blogs.
Blake Lively's PR firm begging to be let go of the case. I think actually they may have the worst messages of all.
And even Hollywood insiders began calling out the nonsense. It turns out multiple media outlets refused to publish some of the complaints against Baldoni because they had zero credibility. When even the same press that devours any scandal won't run a story, you know it's complete nonsense.
You could get into it and just get completely obliterated because lawsuits are not pleasant. But it sounds like you have grounds.
And let's talk about how humiliating it is when even your own media allies don't trust your evidence. The Hollywood Reporter, which has openly leaned in Lively's favor, had to leak the witness information themselves because no legitimate news outlet would touch it. That's right, even the mainstream media wasn't buying what she was selling. You have to be a special kind of terrible at lying for the press to refuse to help you out.
Try to take back the narrative that Baldoni's team has done a very good job of, and perhaps the reason they've done such a good job on the Baldoni's team is because they have more truth on their side than perhaps Blake Lively does.
At this point, Blake Lively is just throwing everything at the wall hoping something sticks. But guess what? Nothing is sticking. She's so deep into her own nonsense that even people who once supported her are backing away like she's contagious. And if you thought that was bad, wait until you hear the most ridiculous accusation yet. Believe it or not, Blake Lively's team is now claiming that Justin Baldoni is too nice. Yes, you heard that correctly, too nice. Apparently, when all else fails, you just attack someone for being kind. Lively's PR team actually pushed a Los Angeles Times hit piece accusing Baldoni of toxic positivity. I wish I were making this up. They literally tried to frame kindness as a crime. One of the actual complaints was that he encouraged employees to sign emails with too much love. Imagine suing someone because their email etiquette was overly friendly. What's next? Suing a barista for writing "Have a great day" on a coffee cup.
HR complaints that was circulated around last week, and a lot of people commented on them. They were not picked up by the press because they looked quite suspicious.
And it gets even more absurd. Another complaint claims he gave clothes to homeless people and filmed it. That's right, helping the less fortunate is now somehow considered a scandal. We've officially reached the point where celebrities are clutching at accusations so ridiculous they sound like bad satire.
What are you talking about? She genuinely is not aware of how insane she's.
And let's not forget that Candace Owens completely tore this nonsense apart. She roasted Lively's entire case, saying, "Imagine living in a world where you can sue someone for being too happy at work." And honestly, that perfectly sums up the level of absurdity we're dealing with at this point. Blake Lively isn't just losing this lawsuit, she's losing her last shred of credibility. She thought she could manipulate the media, control the narrative, and paint herself as the victim, but instead she's become a laughingstock. And the worst part is she did this to herself.
It really is an impactful and powerful piece of evidence that's going to go against Lively, and that's why her deposition is not going to be.
Her bribery scheme collapsed, her fake witnesses collapsed, and her toxic positivity smear completely fell apart. And with every move she makes, she only makes the situation worse. This isn't just a legal defeat, it's a full-scale self-inflicted career disaster. Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds must have been panicking as their PR nightmare spiraled so far out of control that they went into full government conspiracy mode and brought in former CIA agents to clean up the mess. Yes, you heard that right. This isn't simple damage control, this is crisis management at a classified level.
Now both sides are under strict orders to kill each other, and that's what's happening. Both sides are trying to kill each other, and right now Baldoni's team is winning, hands down. Public opinion is completely behind him.
The same people who have helped cover up government scandals, run political spin operations, and bury national security secrets were suddenly tasked with repairing Blake Lively's image. And just think about how bad things have to get before you call in actual intelligence operatives to manage a lawsuit. And let's be clear, these were not ordinary PR consultants. They were experts in deception, architects of disinformation, people capable of making entire events disappear from public memory. And yet, despite all that experience, even they could not fix this mess. That is how broken Blake Lively's situation has become, because when professional government-level cover-up specialists cannot make you look good, you have reached a level of career destruction that is beyond saving.
Two new women who were willing to testify against Baldoni that they have been allegedly felt uncomfortable on set, but they didn't name them. But now it's already kind of leaked who they are.
But wait, it gets even worse. PR insiders dropped another bombshell. Even Leslie Sloan PR, the firm handling Blake Lively's public image, reportedly tried to walk away from the case. Let that sink in. Leslie Sloan PR represents some of the biggest A-list stars in Hollywood, and their entire job is to make celebrities look good no matter how ugly the scandal. They have cleaned up disastrous reputations, buried massive Hollywood controversies, and revived careers that should have been finished long ago, and yet, even they reportedly wanted nothing to do with Blake Lively anymore.
So it's not just a lawsuit, it's a PR campaign. The fact that they didn't include the names, in my mind, when I was reading it, made it felt like it wasn't real or it wasn't very credible.
Do you understand how dire a situation has to be for your own PR firm to walk away? The very people paid to fix disasters looked at Blake Lively's mess and said, "Nope, this is beyond our skill set." When the professionals hired to manage crises see you as a lost cause, congratulations, you've officially hit rock bottom.
Ryan Reynolds have hired former CIA agents with a proven track record of lying to the public, gaslighting.
And let's not forget how much money Blake and Ryan have poured into this disaster. They are bleeding cash, trying to twist the narrative in their favor, but no amount of money can erase reality. That's the problem when you build an entire lawsuit on lies, manipulation, and Hollywood power games. Eventually the truth comes out, and no PR firm, no media connections, and no so-called CIA agents can save you.
Blake Lively may think they have the upper hand. Sources say she has no idea what's coming regarding her battle with Justin Baldoni.
But Blake and Ryan were not done making themselves look even more suspicious, because after the bribery attempt fell apart, the fake witnesses collapsed, and the CIA-level PR cleanup failed, they desperately tried to block Taylor Swift's private messages. Now, let's stop for a moment and ask the obvious question: why are Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds so afraid of Taylor Swift's texts being exposed? What could possibly be in those messages that is so damaging, so career-ending, that they are fighting this hard to keep them hidden?
Could it be not good for the legal case? It's going to be an absolute nightmare for the PR side. And so I think the sooner that they can kind of figure out a path out of this, the better.
Legal analysts have already suggested the most likely explanation: those messages probably contain information that could reveal serious Hollywood power moves, not casual gossip or harmless personal chats, but conversations that allegedly show Blake and Ryan using their industry influence to pressure executives, shape narratives, or sway public perception around the case the moment they started aggressively fighting to keep those texts hidden. Critics say it only increased suspicion that the contents were damaging, because if the messages genuinely proved Blake's innocence, she would supposedly be the first person demanding they be released publicly instead of hidden from view.
Lively and Ryan Reynolds, they need to listen to their lawyers, and they need to resolve this case if possible.
And this is exactly why it stopped being just a lawsuit and turned into a direct attempt to manipulate the legal system. This was never only about Blake Lively versus Justin Baldoni. It became a larger example of how Hollywood elites use influence to shape stories, control what gets seen, and decide what gets buried or exposed. But the problem for Blake and Ryan is that the window closed too fast. The damage was already done. The moment they tried to hide those messages, people immediately sensed something shady was going on, and no matter how many legal tactics they try, they cannot escape the reality that their credibility has now been permanently and publicly destroyed.
Saying you're a liar, you misrepresent who you are in the court of public opinion. They've lost.
And speaking of credibility being destroyed, let's talk about the ultimate downfall of Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds. At this point, the case has backfired so badly, it's almost poetic. They thought they could win using PR tricks, media manipulation, and Hollywood connections. They thought they could twist the narrative, make Baldoni look guilty, and walk away unscathed. But what they didn't understand is that the legal system doesn't work like Hollywood. In Hollywood, you can rewrite scripts, edit out mistakes, and control public perception, but in court, none of that matters. Judges don't care about your polished public image or red carpet appearances. They care about facts, evidence, and the truth. That's why this lawsuit is an absolute disaster for Blake Lively.